Hey, let a man run! 5.9k MMR almost? Ay, ay, ay. That's gonna be a tough one, guys. Especially on a map this big. I love Letterman Ron, primarily because of his nickname. That's the main thing I like about Letterman Ron. He's a Terran player and his name is Letterman Ron. Do I know him? No, I just know his nickname. You could never forget someone's name, Letterman Ron. It's a great name. Also, he's Prime Minister. I think. PM. I don't know what it stands for. I think it's Prime Minister. Makes the most sense. Okay, so we need to start taking into account that old build that we saw in the previous one. It's not something we've seen too much of recently. Is the no-go or no gas at the second base in Zerg versus Protoss a tell it's an all-in? No. So, if you don't see your opponent taking gases in their natural in Zerg versus Protoss, it means they're stacking up additional minerals, right? Which usually means they're either gonna go for an all-in or they expend. So it's tricky because it's the exact opposite. Hey, thank you, Redeemer. Long-time watcher, first-time stream viewer. Hey, that's awesome. Welcome. I stream at this time pretty much every day, Monday through Saturday, 2 to 8 p.m. CET. Alright, let's see what the Terran's up to. I got the third base here. Let's go, Overlord. Wow, Letterman Ron is playing really greedy. Oh, there was a Marine. Can I get this Overlord back on the pillar actually in time then? I think I can, right? Yeah, it should be fine. That sucks. Lost the Overlord, but he decided to lift the barracks for it. So usually that means no, like, Banshee play and all that. Which should be fine for me then. Saving up right now.
We require more minerals. We require more Vespine gas.
I'm going for an all-in. I don't know exactly where the roach or the Hellions are at this point, so I don't really want to send my Zerglings out.
New subscriber detected.
I'm sorry I'm late, but anyway, here's my free Prime sub. Loco, see you next month.
For some reason, that's extremely quick with the Battlecruiser. Thank you, Richard, for the sub. Appreciate it. Can't believe I actually got him.
We require more minerals. We require more minerals. We must. We require not enough energy. We require more.
I don't really have any units right now.
We require more minerals.
I know he's got a third command center, but we're in a good position here, all things considered. This could have been a bit of a bad spot, I think, but right now I don't really mind it.
We require mineral field depleted.
I don't like my creep spread, though. My creep spread is pretty bad here. It opens up a lot of attacks for him in the mid game, especially. So we need to try and survive here for a while, until we get to that position where we are comfortable. But oh wow, I made 2 bailing nests. That's pretty stupid. Don't know why I made 2 bailing nests. No apparent reason. I was really thinking I need a bailing nest. I need a bailing nest. I need a bailing nest. That's a lot of freaking siege tanks. I haven't seen a 4th base yet, so I think I should just try and max out. Oh, that's a desperation move over here.
The hive cluster is under attack. Our forces are under attack.
Looks like he wants to try and grab one right now.
Minerals. Mineral field deplete. Our forces are under attack. We require more minerals. Not enough energy. A creature is under attack. Our forces are under attack. Mineral field depleted.
Okay, so I've got a lot of things coming up here. I've got +3/+3. I've got adrenal glands. I've got ultra cavern. We don't really want to do very much at this point. I just want to make sure I don't take any damage.
Not enough energy.
I also got to start thinking of a spire.
Our forces are under
Med effects. Very good.
a creature is under acceptable command.
Okay, it's time to go. Nice! So I know this guy's really good. This was a proper game as well. Didn't do anything like I obviously played a little bit aggressively in the early game, but that's just because I don't want to play full-on macro against someone who's going Terran mech and not like put any pressure on them. So last time I checked, I think he was around rank 60 on the Grandmaster League ladder, which is literally like right around pro level. I, generally speaking, like playing aggressively right now. Like I said, because of Terran mech in particular, it seems like the majority of the Terran players I go up against right now try and go for that turtle mech style. And especially because of the strength of the Thor right now, I don't really feel comfortable playing that macro game and leave Terran completely to their own devices. So over the last few
New
weeks, I've been playing a lot more
subscriber
aggressively.
Yeah, boy.
Thank you, Resolventa. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So one thing I've noticed recently, right? So I used to get worried whenever Terran players would lift up their barracks to kill my overlord, right? So this is a pretty recent thing I've recently been thinking about. To take it one step back, whenever I go for this roach-based push, so the one where I make my Roach Warren at 330 and I go for, you know, the second gas around the same time as well, and we built like a bunch of Ravagers on the other side of the map and we push, right? That build is most vulnerable to instant Banshee play. So the standard for Terran is to go either one Viking or one Battlecruiser first. But some Terran players will go instantly into the Banshee. And if they go for a Banshee blindly, it accidentally counters the build that I'm going for. Like if they go Banshee immediately, it's basically game over. Now it turns out when they like lift up the barracks and they go after my first Overlord, you would see it doesn't line up anymore with the starport. Now, normally it's the barracks that produces the tech lab. Like he will probably still do it. Well, actually, it does it straight up on the tech lab here. The thing is, it doesn't really line up. Now, obviously, he could still go for the Banshee, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So most of the time when they lift up the barracks, it's actually fine to still go for the push because they don't have a Banshee 99% of the time. I mean, obviously, that only really works at like higher level play, I guess. The reason why I split up my links here, so a couple on the low ground, couple on the high ground, is because I don't want him to see my second gas. So that was a pretty big scout over here as well. Terran has a couple of ways that which they can scout this kind of push. I really needed to make sure he couldn't see my second gas. I think actually if he would have jumped to the low ground, even though the Zerglings would have killed him there, he could have seen the second gas, but he would have a hard time figuring out what was going on. So this looks like a normal macro build right now from the perspective of Terran. I think he probably realized that something wasn't quite up when he pushed in with the Hellions over at the 3rd. Because he sees only a handful of workers. Actually, nah, I don't think he saw too much wrong there. It's totally fine. Alright, anyways, we push straight across. I left my Zerglings at home for a long while, because I thought he was going to try and push in with the Hellions, so I needed those for base defense, and then I saw the Hellions on here, and we moved straight across the map. Now, how many workers did I kill? That's the real question. 30. Okay, it was still a pretty sufficient amount of workers that we killed there. 30 workers, and I was droning behind, plus getting spores, plus getting queens. I think we started up the transition at the right moment. I also still had some reinforcing Zerglings on the left. Didn't sacrifice all of them in time. As soon as he committed the battlecruiser, that's when I hoped he would also be sending out the Hellions. I committed these lings in, so we get a couple more worker kills. Yeah, we were actually in a much bigger advantage than I realized at the time. Alright, and from there, the game essentially just transitioned towards a regular macro game. He happened to be going bio, which I feel way more comfortable playing against. So, infantry-based Terran. And I actually assumed that with this push, I would have been pretty late with my upgrades. But it looks like I'm about, I don't know, like 45 seconds or so ahead of his upgrades, which is really nice. That's the real strength of playing Ling Bane versus bio. Like, the upgrades are huge. And then, one last thing, I guess, to note here as far as the defense goes while we macro up. I'm aiming to go up to about 90 workers here. But I need to make sure that I don't lose any of them in the process. So one of the biggest things that I've personally found, and this happens with pretty much every single one of the people that I coach, when it comes to playing Zerg, you should always be, when playing defensively, right? So basically after that whole battlecruiser debacle, we play super defensively. It's absolutely critical that once Terran players start dropping, that you start splitting up your army. I don't know exactly who told me this anymore. It's been a couple of years, but essentially what you want to do, you want to think of where the Terran player could be dropping and put units there instead. If you have decent enough creep spread, if you need all of your army in one big clump, you can get them there quite easily. So all you need to do at that point is just, you know, hit the F2 button or something like that. Use the all army hotkey at that point. But at this point, I'm basically just spreading my units around to make sure that I am not getting caught off guard against this kind of drop play. So we're trying to sort of intercept it before it can get to the point where they can start dropping. So once you start expanding towards the 4th and stuff, that especially becomes really popular and very important to do. So yeah, he continues dropping. I think this is about the moment where I start splitting up my units. So I've sent a couple here for a counterattack. I should have some units over here as well. So yeah, this is the moment where I split. I have some units over at the 4th and some units over at the 3rd, and then soon I'm going to have some over here and then some in the main base too. And that is just in case there's drops, because we don't really need to have all of our army in one big clump. Like, someone told me that once upon a time, and it was like a big game changer for me as far as like my TVZ goes. Just think about where they're going to drop next. Think about where they would be going for multi-pronged harass and position army there. I'm not hotkeying any of this, so all of my army is... I don't know if it's actually hotkeyed at this point. It's just like boxed into the different locations, which helps a lot. And then he goes in with the big push. He moves very aggressively here. So I figured, okay, if you want to do that, I'll just hit you with banelings immediately. Normally you want to wait until he gets into like a position where he actually wants to fight. But I see here, if you look at my vision, when he is sieging, and I notice at this point that he's not. And he moves a little bit further. Now he starts sieging, and we you know, just pull the trigger so he can't get the first hit in. So I was busy setting up a massive surround so he could come in from every single angle. Don't get the perfect engagement here, but, I mean, we get there before all of the tanks are sieged, which is a really big deal. And that's, like, done in the same way. So I'm not using hotkeys to, like, create these surrounds. We just grab a bunch of it, and then right-click it over there, and grab a bunch of that, and then right-click it over there, and just try and set up the army to come in from every single angle. As far as hotkeying in this army goes, I've got Hydraling Bane on one hotkey group, and then I've got a secondary hotkey group for the Banelings specifically as well. So hotkeys for the Banelings apply twice. So I've got 2 hotkeys for Banelings. So say hotkey number 1 right here is my all army hotkey basically, right? And my hotkey number 2 is just the Banelings. What I do is I attack move with the right over here, with the entirety of the army, and then we manually move command the Banelings, because we need to make sure the Banelings roll into the Marines and not the siege tanks. Also, another rule for Banelings that I think is quite big, whenever you're about to use Banelings, morph in new Banelings. So this is a good example of where I'm just about to use Banelings. I've got about 21 of them. I'm morphing in 17 new ones. So when you reinforce here with more Ling Bane, or sorry, more Ling Hydra, you also get the Banelings again, which is really critical too. Okay, you ready? This is the engagement. It was a good one. He wants to run with the Marines, but he can't leave. And we absolutely shut it down. Whew. So I was actually planning this this game to win it with the hive tech, right? So I wasn't really aiming to push with this army right here. I wanted to push with Ultralisks and then +3/+3 and chitinous plating, right? So I think it would have been an equally okay move here for me to go back and just max out again. But it's always a little bit scary to give them any wiggle room. I wanted to win with the hive tech, but worked out really well. Good game, guys. I think we've peaked today. I think this is where we need to call the ladder a quit for the day. I mean, no, I don't want to quit the ladder right now, but I feel like this is the best game we're gonna play for the time being. That was a good one, though. That was fun.